Okay. All right. Okay, today we have Diane Blank here with us from Haunted ATX. She is operations manager for Haunted ATX here in Austin. They are the only mobile ghost tour in the city. Before getting into the ghost business, Diane practiced law for many years in New York City, handling many civil rights and gender discrimination cases. Hold on. She is featured in Equal, Women Reshape American Law by Fred Strebe, thank you, in 2009, along with Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Catherine McKinnon, and other women who contributed to the expansion of the rights of women during the past half century as both litigants and attorneys. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me. And it was great fun, let me tell you. Well, I'm here in my capacity as operations manager for Haunted ATX. I've been with them since 2017. I actually moved here from New York in 2014. I have grandchildren here, so that explains it all. I started out as a tour guide and then became the operations manager. So I answer all the phone calls, I handle scheduling and things of that nature, and sometimes do these fun little talks. Today, I would like to tell you about a couple of places. One is Littlefield House on the UT campus. Is anyone familiar with it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Has anyone ever been inside? No. I haven't either. They have it locked up tighter than a drum. It is a lovely place. Now, do we have that? I have no idea how to do PowerPoint.
I'm going to do PowerPoint. Help me out here. Here we go. I'm going to share my screen. We're going to start at the top. And if you want me to move things around, or
yeah, there should be a big picture of Littlefield House there. Okay. It was the first one I sent you. Yes, there we go.
There we go.
Isn't that magnificent?
Yes.
This house was built in 1893-94 for, eat your hearts out, $50,000.
Wow.
It was built by Major George Washington Littlefield and his wife, Alice. They were great benefactors of UT. They donated the 40 acres, as the main campus is known by. They built the Littlefield dorms for women across Whitus Avenue, or Whitus, could be one or the other. Correct me if I'm wrong. Anyway, built the Littlefield dorms for women. They built the Littlefield fountain on the other side of the tower. There are many buildings in downtown Austin that bear their name. Now, George and Alice absolutely adored children, and they planned on having a lot of them. Unfortunately, they really had rotten luck in that department. They had one child who was born dead, unfortunately, and another lived for only a few days. So they never did have any children of their own. However, they had 12 nephews and 17 nieces, and they educated each and every one of them through college. And when the boys graduated, they set them up in whatever business they wanted. And when the girls graduated, they bought them each their own house.
Wow. Nice.
I had a guest once who said, wasn't that sexist? I was like, hell no. A woman couldn't even get a mortgage in her own name until like the 1970s. So that was a biggie. So at any rate, when she was 60, Alice seemed to have some kind of a nervous breakdown. She reportedly would run up and down the stairs at Littlefield House screaming that the Yankees were coming and they were going to kidnap her and George. Well, she'd been born in 1846 in Virginia. Then her family had moved south to Memphis and then out here to Texas, where she and George were married during the Revolutionary War. He was 20 and she was 16. Started young those days. So, but anyway, so there she is at 60 having this nervous breakdown. Could have been a little PTSD from the war, a little menopause, So George consulted the experts of his day, and they told him that he might as well put Alice away because she obviously had outlived her usefulness, which I hasten to add, men were perfectly free to do this in most instances. If you were a man and you had some female relative that you thought was too sexy, too mouthy, too disobedient, off to the loony bin, and there was like no recourse. I mean, we didn't even have the right to vote then. But George, to his credit, refused to listen to them. And he said if Alice were going to go crazy, she could do so in her own home. So he hired round the clock nurses for her. And she stayed that way for 8 years until 1920 when George died of pneumonia.
Mm.
And then she got better. Now, the historical accounts say that Alice got better because she no longer had to worry about George. Excuse me, but doesn't that sound like it was written by a man? I'm reminded of a neighbor I used to have in New York who was 95 when she was a day. And she had children, grandchildren, great grandchildren. One day she said to me, I didn't even begin to live till I was 70 after my husband died. Oh my God. Oh my God. But Alice lived on until 1935. I think she passed away at the age of 88. But she spent a lot of her time in this, if you look at the picture of this turret up above here.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you saw
and
it.
she spent a lot of time in that window looking out at the tower that was in the process of being built. The UT Tower was originally built as a library.
Yeah.
But her journals reflect that she thought there was something very dark at that site.
Mm-hmm.
Something that really needed to be kept an eye on.
Mm-hmm.
So who knows? Maybe she had a premonition that, in
Mm-hmm.
1966, whenever it was, that there was going to be this terrible shooting from UT Tower. But I am convinced that Alice is still there. This building is owned by UT, and there's a staff that works there during the day, and they do like event planning. But everybody who works there says, suddenly they'll hear the piano playing, and there's nobody even near it, and it's not like a player piano. Or they'll hear footsteps upstairs, and no one is there. I've talked to a few of the maintenance fellows at night, and they apparently have a little cubby hole with a desk. And they'll say, I've heard there's two different ones. At some point in the night, a woman will just kind of peek around the door jamb and then poof, disappear. It's a very interesting place. In fact, when I was first doing tours for Haunted, I was coming to work one night and I was driving the black hearse and I stopped to get gas. So this man comes up to me and he says, basically, what do you do? I said, well, I give ghost tours. It says Haunted ATX on the back. I give ghost tours in Austin. He said, do you ever go to the UT campus? I said, yeah, I do. He said, there's a haunted house there. Oh. So I said, well, I know, but how do you know? So he tells me that he works for a carpet cleaning company, and his company had been hired by UT to clean the carpets in Littlefield House. If you've ever had your carpets shampooed, you're not supposed to walk on them for a while afterwards. So everyone who worked there at Littlefield had been sent home around noon. So this fellow says he and his coworker are doing the little machine thingies. He said, all of a sudden, they each got the distinct impression that there was somebody else in this house with them. And he hastened to add, we're just regular guys. We're not like that. So but they assumed it was someone who worked there, had hung back, was going to jump out of a closet and scare the pants off them, right? So they turn off their machines. And he says they look in every closet and cupboard that they can find, see nothing until they come to about the 15th cupboard. They open it up, and he said the sound of this woman's laughter just rang out. Oh my God. I said, oh, it's Alice. So I'm convinced that she is around. Other folks say that, they walk along, is it Whitus or Whitus? Whitus Avenue.
Whitus.
You say Whitus?
That's what I thought.
Oh,
but I said Brazos Street once to somebody, and she looked at me totally incomprehendingly, just, Brazos Street. So, it's all right. I have a weird accent myself. I grew up in Rhode Island. Want to go shopping in the car? Every once in a while it slips out. But anyway, back to Littlefield House. We have had many in the next picture. I think there's one with it shows a window up here in the middle. There's like a squarish window.
Is it the one with all of the different windows that you
Yes, they were like,
have? I put a bunch of windows in that one. Is that not it?
no, go back.
That's it.
Back, back, back.
Have
That one.
That one. Oh, there we go.
No. This is an actual, I guess, it's a lithograph or a photograph of Alice Littlefield in her later years. And then in this window, which is just below the widow's walk in the middle of the house, what is that? All right. Sometimes we come and there's a light on there for some reason, and there'll be like an easy chair and a floor lamp. But this is totally different. It looks like a woman sitting there at the window, doesn't it? And she's either, reading a book or writing in a journal or something. It's just got to be Alice. And this has been there now for several years. We first saw it on like a Sunday afternoon at 4 o'clock. So it doesn't have to be dark to have these experiences. So I thought that was extremely interesting. And it's been there quite a while. So that's one issue. Now the next one, you see that grill thing?
Oh, this
with
one.
the face. That one, yeah.
Oh.
Now, whoops.
Oh,
Let me make it a little
bit too
sharper.
See if I can make it smaller, maybe. I'll make it. I don't know if that helps or not.
Helps a little bit.
A little bit.
Just pass around my phone. There aren't too many of us here.
Doesn't really look like Alice though.
No, I don't know what it is. Okay.
You're talking about that right there?
Yeah, that face.
Yes.
You see the eye and the.
I have no idea what that is.
Forehead.
Yes. Now this is, I used to think of this as the front door, but it's actually the door that faces onto, I think it's 21st Street. I think the front door is sort of on the side because there's a big porte cochere, you drive up, sort of stuff. So no clue. Now, do you see the one with the gray smoke? Let's see.
That one? Or that one?
There.
There we go.
Now, see this picture on the right? That stuff on this just tarps. They were doing some renovations. See the stairs? It looks like there's a ball of gray smoke. Well, I am told by a medium who I respect that those are ghosts.
You're talking about over here on the stairs?
See on the stairs up there?
She says that's multiples.
Right. And then what the heck is this? See, we're standing in front of the door and we have this smoky stuff twisted around this grill work. So people would say to me, well, isn't that just a reflection, a shadow of someone standing? No, because at that point, the porch where you stand and look in this door was always completely dark. They never had a light on there. They only started putting a light on there maybe 6, 8 months after this was taken. I don't know what that is. I think it's absolutely fascinating. Who is it? I don't know. Most of the time, the messages that people get are from Alice. However, we did have a tour guide who was doing a tour a few years ago. She had like 6 people in it, a mom and like a 12 or 13-year-old daughter, a local couple, and a couple from New Orleans. So the tour guide takes him into the Driscoll, and this kid starts screaming, well, you don't do that at the Driscoll. So she kind of strong arms her out. And then at that point, we were going to the tavern, 12th and Lamar. So we go into the tavern, and this kid knows stuff about the tavern that there is no way she would ever know. So they come out of the tavern. The local couple says, we're bailing. This is too scary for us. So they leave, and the tour guide takes the remaining 4 to Littlefield House, and they're standing out in front. It turns out the 2 people from New Orleans are a spiritual advisor and a medium. So wow. They're trying to help this kid deal with whatever it is she's dealing with. But somehow George makes himself be known. This is the first time I've ever heard of George making any sort of an appearance. But his shtick was he was tired of being dead and he wanted to come back to the other side. And then Alice made herself be known, and her message was basically, forget it, Buster, when you're dead, you're dead. Not in those exact words. And this child would say, there are eyes peering out of the windows. Sometimes we see them. Now I'm going to show you something that happened right in front of my eyes that I have no explanation for.
Is it the W at the tavern?
Maybe go, no, not at the, here, at the
The
Little Field
Driscoll?
House.
At the Driscoll one?
No,
No?
go back.
All right.
I think it's this series here.
The fourth windows here?
Yeah.
Okay. Right, that one. I can make it bigger.
Now here, you can leave that. This is
No,
fine.
no, is that?
Here's the thing.
Is that?
I'm standing here with this was like 2017, 2018, February, right? And so mom here in the printed top is trying to take a picture of daughter who's having none of this, okay? But mom says, oh, look, there's a light in this window. Well, all that is a reflection of a lamp that's in the garden in front of the house. But she pulls in closer. We have this, and then we have this. Now, again,
Oh, yeah.
it's usually a lot sharper.
That definitely doesn't look like Alice either.
Well, we have what looks like a woman with long dark hair from the back. And then we have this guy that's not too clear in the showing, but there's a guy here in a derby hat. We have no idea who this dude is. So I always joke that maybe George and Alice were so happy because Alice had a bit on the side. And then if you look over here, see that? Looks like the guy in the derby hat over here peering through the blinds.
Oh.
But he doesn't seem to have any discernible body. It's just
On the fourth picture,
over
Yeah.
here under
on the top left. Picture on window.
which one?
Down here?
Right here,
Down here.
Oh, on
there.
the
See
right, okay,
Yeah.
corner. Oh, got it.
So
Hmm.
I think it's pretty amazing.
Hmm. Huh.
Anyway, that's our little field house. We just love it.
Hmm.
Back in the day, they would let us drive our big hearses under the porte cochere so we could dazzle everyone with our abilities. But then I don't know, not us, we're very respectful, but somebody else was doing tours and hit something, so that was the end of that.
Too bad.
So now we are a street exercise opportunity, right?
Yep.
So that is our little field house. I think it is absolutely wonderful. I wish I could go inside myself.
Mm.
We have had a couple of tour guides who were fortunate enough to have people on their tour who had a key because they weren't there in the daytime.
Wow.
So they took them in.
Wow.
But it's very interesting. There are also stories from the people who work there. I mean, there's another one that I just was reading about where a senior maintenance guy and junior maintenance guy. So senior says to junior, clear up this carpet down here on the first floor. And he goes upstairs to check things. And when he comes out of whatever bedroom he was checking, he turns around and the guy is cleaning upstairs. So I said, I told you to clean downstairs. And the guy just keeps cleaning upstairs. He's like on his hands and knees. So then he goes downstairs and there's the guy he told to be downstairs,
Wow.
cleaning downstairs. So who the heck is that? We have no idea. I must say I have been stunned by the weird things that I've experienced. But on the other hand, you know, our poor little humanoid senses don't pick up everything. Most people don't realize that we're standing mainly on space. You know, when you think of the atoms and molecules and stuff. But it's not obvious to us. We can't hear high tones like certain dogs can or low tones. So there's just a lot of stuff going on that we are unaware of. Now, shall we move to a different place? How are we doing? The clay pit. Has anyone ever eaten there?
Yes.
Yeah,
Best Indian food.
yeah.
That place is so haunted.
I didn't know that.
When I first started doing these tours, I knew about two ghosts. One was the ghost of a little kid who people would see like dancing on the bar and stuff like that. And the other one was known as the Scarlet Lady. And this was a woman who we thought was a prostitute from the brothel next door, who would sort of haunt the cellar area and the main floor. So there's a fellow in town named Stephen Blue, and he has a podcast called the Night Owl Podcast. Are any of you familiar with it? Mm-hmm. Well, it's terrific. And he works with a medium who's said these gray things or ghosts, Sarah. And so he started taking Sarah around to these various places. And his MO is basically he'll talk to people who might have had ghostly experiences. So he called me up and he said, "Can you tell us what you know about the tavern?" I said, "Okay." And I came and I told him about these two ghosts. And I said, I don't know, this little kid, I don't know how old he is or what his name is, but I always think of him as little Tobias, which was true. And I had a very clear picture in my mind. And I don't think I'm particularly sensitive to these things. Okay. So some time passes. Stephen brings Sarah to the tavern and he says, "See if you can find out what this little kid's name is." And so she comes back and she says, "He says his name is Toby." So Stephen calls me up and he says, "How did you know?" I said, "It just popped into my head." I then subsequently had a couple on tour and they said they had a ghost in their living room because, things would be moved around and stuff. And then she said one night she and her husband looked at each other and at the same time they both said, "Jimmy." So they figured that was who this was. Some Jimmy that was hanging around. Now, anyway, Sarah comes to the clay pit with Stephen, and she finds out that in addition to the Scarlet Lady and little Toby, there are two other ghosts that inhabit this place. The Scarlet Lady's story is that she was gut shot in a raid. We had originally pictured this as like 1890s kind of thing, but it became obvious after Sarah found out different things. This was really a prohibition. This was a 1920s kind of thing. So we have the Scarlet Lady, whose name is actually April. She was supposedly in her late 20s when she died. And then we have little Toby. And then Sarah said, locked upstairs in a room which is known as the Bombay room, but it's mainly used for storage. It's where children died and stuff. There was a spirit that was locked in there by another medium by the name of Stedman, not Oprah's boyfriend, but the same name. And he was sort of a middle teen African-American boy. And he had been beaten to death in this raid. And some medium had come and put a spell on his spirit, so he couldn't, I know this sounds crazy, right? Put a spell on his spirit so he would not leave this Bombay room. So Sarah poked around. She finds a coin from like 1922 or 3 or something. And she removes the coin, and Stedman comes out. Stedman is reunited with April. They were friends. She was teaching him to read and all of this stuff. So that was very nice. And then she found another ghost by the name of Dowdy. This guy was sort of the neighborhood troublemaker. We think it was he who called in the raid that got April killed and Stedman killed. I have a picture of him. Look at that picture with where the bar is. Yeah, this one. Yeah. See in that middle window? Well, it's not a window, it's mirrors. People say never buy an antique mirror. I was here this time with a group of people, and I had these two women, Andrea from Maine, I'll never forget her. She got the picture of the smoke and stuff, and her friend. And so they're taking pictures, and we're getting ready to leave. 4 people had already gone down. I was standing over here at the stairs waiting for them. The figure over here to your left is Andrea's friend. She's taking pictures. But Andrea sends me this the next day and says, basically, who the heck is this in the middle? I don't know. Certainly was not a reflection of anybody that was on the tour with us. It looks like a reflection of someone sitting at the bar. But as you can see, there is nobody sitting at the bar. So I texted to Stephen Ballou from the Night Owl podcast.
Oh,
He texts it to, see that? Sarah the medium, and without missing a beat, she says, "Oh, that's Dowdy."
Hmm.
And so Stephen went down to the archives and found out this was a real person. Dowdy is his first name. We don't know his last name because Stephen won't tell us. We don't want to get sued.
Hmm.
But there he is.
Hmm.
And then, you know, nothing happened for a while. Some months later, I'm standing at the bar. I have a couple on tour. I hadn't told them anything about the mirrors or anything else. And the wife says, "There's a man standing behind me, and he's wearing this weird flat black hat." So Abby and I look, we don't see anything. I said, "It's Dowdy." So there it is, a real person who lived in the 1920s, causing trouble.
Did
But
the woman who saw Dowdy see anything else on the tour?
Well, she did get those pictures of that smoky stuff
Oh, yeah,
that
yeah.
was wrapped around the grill work
Yeah.
at Littlefield House.
Yeah.
And it was here at the tavern because Sarah was sitting down in the basement.
Mm-hmm.
And she, in this episode, it's a bunch of episodes on the tavern, not the tavern, the clay pit. But she describes this all gray smoke bouncing down the stairs. And she says, "Oh, that's some spirit."
Hmm.
So very interesting. They have now removed these mirrors at the clay pit.
Yeah, why?
Apparently some lady was having a big wedding
Oh.
and she didn't want the mirrors there, some superstition, some she may be
Oh.
right for all I know.
I want to go back to this one and zoom in because I couldn't zoom in before, but now I think I know.
It is Derby hat.
Mhm.
Then down here is when.
See, that's what I was
Isn't that creepy?
thinking first, yeah. Oh my goodness.
Very early on,
Hmm.
when I started doing tours, it was like March of 2017 or something. I had a group at the clay pit and we were up in the Bombay room. And one of my guests was a person who gave ghost tours in New England. So she walks to the end of the room and she stands there and she goes, "Oh, there's a cold spot here. Come over," she says, "you'll be able to feel it." Now I'm faced with a moral dilemma, right? I'm a newbie. Suppose I can't feel it. Should I lie a little? But as it turned out, I didn't have to. I walked over there and there was a column of cold air that was about this wide and went from the floor as far up as I could reach with no explanation. It was March. There was no AC on. Windows were closed, no drafts anywhere. So I dined out on that for a few years or something. And then I was up there in that same room with another group, and a woman walks back. She said, "Oh, it's right here." And it was. So, those are the only two times I felt that, though. But Bali Singh, who's one of the owners there, has incredible stories about ghosts and stuff. Everybody who works there has experiences. But he's one time he was meeting with one of his business partners. The restaurant was closed. They were sitting at the bar on the first floor. And he says, all of a sudden, he's hit with this rock, like a little pebble from a stream. He said, I said to my partner, "Did you just throw a rock at me?" Just don't be ridiculous. And while they're sitting there, 3 or 4 more of these pebbles being thrown from somewhere. Couldn't have fallen off the walls. It's all like limestone. It's kind of rough, you know. So then he said he had to do something in his eyes. Wait a minute, we'll go out together. So he did. And as they went out the main door and as they were closing it, they both heard this voice say, "Finally." Now, it seems that little Toby makes an appearance most of the time when mothers are involved. Like Bali tells this hilarious story. He says it's lunchtime, the restaurant is hopping, and this woman walks out. She's going to go to the ladies' room and nurse a baby. I said to her, don't go in there, go up to the second floor. You know, nobody's up there, nobody will bother you. So she did, and 20, 30 minutes later, she comes down. She says, you know, there's a little boy running around upstairs.
Oh.
So following, oh God, it's some kid who's escaped the mandatory lunch. God knows what havoc he's wreaking, so he runs upstairs. He's had to go down to the restaurant in the middle of the night because people call and report seeing a little boy peering out of those windows from the second floor.
Oh my God.
So Bella like, don't be crazy now. I'll show you. And then at one point, he said he was having a fight with the wife. Says, fine, I'm gonna sleep at the restaurant. So in the lobby area, at that point, there were these really cushy leather couches, kind of sink down to your earlobes and stuff. They've subsequently changed them to a little more structure, I think. A lot of people couldn't get out of these couches. But at any rate, everything's closed. He said, I put myself down on one of these couches. I got a big tablecloth. I tucked myself in and I fall asleep. And he said, all of a sudden, tablecloths on the floor. So lays down again, covers himself up, nods off. Tablecloths whipped off him on the floor again. So I said, that was it. I went home. I said to my wife, you were so right. So I think it is a mother thing. Another time I was sitting up on the second floor and I had people were sitting around. Suddenly one of the women said, oh, she looks down. She said, it just felt like, you know how a kid comes and they just kind of lay on your thigh like that? It was like that. So we couldn't see anything.
Oh.
And then another lady was swearing that there was this kid dancing on the bar down on the first floor. Don't you see that? And according to Bali, she described the exact way I had pictured it in my own mind. But nobody else could see him.
Mm.
Dredd, who's like the night manager there, he says he'll be closing up at the bar, and out of the corner of his eye, you know, he can see little Toby on the stairs. So I think that's absolutely fascinating.
Does anybody know like who he?
Well, we think it's one of the Bertram children because this location was actually sort of a trading post kind of place where several of the Native American tribes, you know, came and bartered and stuff like that. But then in the 1840s, we had a large influx of German immigrants for a number of reasons. Germany was kind of a mess at that time, and so they were coming west. And the Bertram family was one of them. And so Mr. and Mrs. Bertram saw this site and thought, cool place for a store. So they opened up a store. And then they found out that next door was a brothel. How handy dandy. And so they decided if they made friends with the ladies next door and opened a bar, they'd be in Fat City, which they were. Now, rumor has it that there is actually an underground tunnel that leads, or led, it's probably blocked up now, from the Capitol building right down, I think it's 16th Street, where it's Guadalupe in between 16th and 17th or 16th and 15th. So this tunnel goes right down and went into the basement. So if you were Joe Cowboy, you could just like belly up to the bar, have a drink, no problem. If you were somebody important, but you didn't want your wife to know, you could sneak in underground. This seems to be a common thing.
Now the structure is not original to that time period though.
Some of it is,
Oh,
about half of it is.
Mm-hmm.
I have a full picture of it. It originally started, it was like maybe 2 stories. And there's a picture in there, in fact, in the restaurant where they have the computer thing like this. And they have a picture, they have a thing in front of it. But behind that is a picture of how it used to be. And there was a big porch on the second floor and a green door that led out to that porch. And you could see members of the Bertram family standing there. Their stuff of the time. But then at some point, they basically doubled the size. They extended it, you know, this way, added the Bombay room, storerooms and stuff like that to the right, and made like a higher roof instead of like this. it then goes up, and so there's more attic space, for lack of a better word. So very interesting place, I must say. Now, what else how are we doing for time? Oh, okay. Let's see, I could tell you about the Driscoll Hotel.
Yeah.
The Driscoll Hotel actually has 8 ghosts that I know.
Do you know when it was first opened, the Driscoll Hotel?
Yes, it was built in 1886
86.
by Colonel Jesse Driscoll. He wasn't a real colonel, but he was a cattle baron who sold beef to the Confederate Army during the Civil War. So they gave him this honorary title, kind of like Colonel Sanders. But as you can imagine, he made pots of money doing it. And when the war was over and Austin had become the capital of Texas after some back and forth between Austin and Houston, I think it was, he decided that he was going to build the best hotel west of the Mississippi, which shouldn't have been all that difficult because there wasn't a whole heck of a lot between Chicago and San Francisco in those days. But he spent $800,000 building this hotel,
Oh my gosh.
which was a huge amount of money. I thought it was crazy how bad it was. I figured out when I first started doing tours around 2017, it was maybe $13-14 million, probably double that now. But you couldn't build a hotel like this for that kind of money anyway, right? So after he built the hotel, it became known as a political hotel because we would have the legislature would meet there while they were building the Capitol up the hill. So the first ghost that we know about there is the ghost of Mrs. Bridges, not from Downton Abbey or wherever that was, but she was a clerk. She ran the reservation desk back around early 1900s, 1920s. And people at that point, hotel personnel wore these kind of Victorian outfits. So sometimes guests will come downstairs and they'll report seeing this thin woman in a long black dress hovering around in the middle of the lobby where the old reservation desk used to be. Sorting mail, rearranging flowers in a vase, and floating back and forth from that to the vault. Because if you've ever had a safe deposit box, you know you have one key, the institution has another one. So that's number one. If you've ever been in the main part of the Driscoll, you know, there's a beautiful skylight above it. Under that used to be where the reservation desk was, and above it was a flue that sucked out all the cigar smoke and the hot air. And I always say there must have been a lot of it because this was a political hotel. Until I think it was 1956, when the Driscoll became only the second building in Austin to be air conditioned. So they ripped out the flue. They moved the reservation desk down to what used to be the old gentleman's entrance, the place on Brazos Street. Used to be known as the ladies' entrance. So either the women didn't want to smell that cigar smoke, or the men didn't want them to know what they were talking about. But I suspect it was 6 of one and a dozen of the other. Now, the next most famous ghost in that place is little Samantha Houston. Samantha was a granddaughter of Sam Houston, and her daddy was in the legislature, and which they were having these meetings at the Driscoll, and her family had a suite at the top of the ballroom stairs. I don't know if you're familiar till you come in from 6th Street lobby, beautiful stairs that go up to the ballroom and then to the bar and everything. So one night she got out. She was bouncing a ball at the top of these ballroom stairs, slipped, tumbled down the stairs, and died. Very sad, but she still hangs out. Because frequently guests will call down to the desk and say, who is that kid running up and down in the corridor bouncing a ball and giggling? It's 3:30 in the morning. Nobody that they know of. We think it's Samantha.
Really, she didn't bounce him down the stairs. We're good. We're good. We're good.
Good to go?
We're good. We're good. Yeah.
Okay. So that's ghost number 2, Samantha. The next ghost is a ghost of a prostitute who's apparently chased across the bar, maybe 120 years ago or so, by a very irate customer. And he was so angry that he chased her into the ladies' room on the 2nd floor and sliced off her head with a straight razor. Oh, which must take a tremendous amount of strength, I would think. But sometimes folks go in that bathroom and report seeing this disembodied head floating up near the ceiling, dripping blood. Or sometimes they just notice drips of blood. I mean, this is not a bus station bathroom. It's very odd. So that's kind of weird. The next ghost that tends to show up in that bathroom is a ghost known as the suicide bride. This was a young woman who in the 1940s was planning on being married at the Driscoll and spending her honeymoon there. But unfortunately, she was jilted at the altar. So she went to her room, which was room 525, and hanged herself. First of all, the hotel tried to hush this up, not necessarily a selling point, but then it came to their attention that folks were actually very eager to spend the night in this room. And now there's a waiting list, okay?
For room 525.
Yes, and I actually had a guest once who had spent the previous night in room 525. So I said, what happened? So she said, well, I was lying in bed reading a book, and she said, all of a sudden, the other side of the mattress went down as though someone had sat upon it. And so then she went, didn't see anything. So I said, well, then what did you do? She said, well, I finished my chapter, then I turned off the light and went to sleep. I've subsequently heard that other people, first of all, have these fan things that happen in their room and the sinking bed. So I'm not sure I want to be there alone or with somebody that I didn't know who it was, okay? Well, our next ghost, after the suicide bride, is, oh God, it's just went right out of my head. We'll come back to it. Then we have the shopping bag lady. This was another poor jilted bride from someplace else, some Texas socialite. This is in the 1980s, so it seems like yesterday to me. But she was jilted, so she came to Austin, rented herself a nice room at the Driscoll. And each day, hotel personnel would see her go out, and each afternoon, she'd come in carrying shopping bags. Well, then they didn't see her for a couple of days and they got a little worried. So they went into her room and there the poor thing was, dead in the bathtub with a pillow over her chest and a gunshot wound through her heart where she shot herself. I'm going to teach these women to shoot the guys. No offense. They're misbehaving instead of always blaming ourselves. But now, when folks come back to the hotel late afternoon or early evening, they will frequently report seeing this little figure popping ahead of them carrying a shopping bag. I once had a young lady on my tour who said she had taken this tour specifically to hear about that ghost because she had a boyfriend who was in construction and he was working on a room at the Driscoll. And he came home and he said to her in the middle of the afternoon, right through one wall of this room came this little floaty figure carrying a shopping bag, floated right across the room and out through the other wall.
Oh my gosh.
Our last ghost, Peter Lawless, that's the guy I was trying to remember. Up on the 2nd floor, the ballroom floor, which is another place we used to be able to go until people misbehave, not our people. There's a big portrait of the Driscoll from 6th Street, and it's flanked by this beautiful sconce with 3 globes. So I tell about Peter Lawless, was a good friend of the Driscoll family. And even when the hotel was closed from time to time, which it was, he had his own key in his own room and he could pretty much come and go as he pleases. He was known to have 2 faults, however. One was he had a reputation of being a terrible womanizer. And 2, even worse in Texas, He was a card cheat. So, one day he's walking across 6th Street, coming back from wherever, and some guys he'd fleeced at cards shoot him in the back. Crawls into the Driscoll and dies where the old reservation desk used to be. But he's another one who still makes himself known. And one thing he does, when I first started doing the tours, I would say, when he sees a lady he likes, this sconce flickers madly. So one day I had this group of high school students that were here for some kind of choral contest, adorable, like 15, 16 or something. And one of the kids was obviously gay, which was no problem for anybody. So this gay kid goes up to this sconce and he goes, "Oh, flicker for me. Don't you know it did?" I was like, "Who knew? Well, it's from both ways, hard word." So I have to be careful. I had another fellow on the tour who said that he was an electrician and he and his crew had been called to the Driscoll one night because not one of the elevators would work. And he said they worked all night. They took up a plate, they jiggled around the wires, they couldn't find anything wrong. And he said, and then the sun came up. And as soon as the sun came up, everything just worked again.
Oh my gosh.
So it's very interesting. My last ghost is the Phantom Security Guard, number 8. Stories say there's this Phantom Security Guard that kind of runs around the Driscoll, makes sure everything is copacetic. So one night, it was like a Sunday night, it was kind of dead. I come in, and back when I first started doing these tours, if the Driscoll was having a private party upstairs, they would have one of those red velvet ropes across the stairway leading upstairs. So that was a signal that we weren't allowed up there. So I come in on this Sunday night, there's a rope, but there clearly is nothing going on upstairs. So I look around and like a few feet away is the security guard is usually on. And I said, "What's the story? Can I take my guests upstairs?" They said, "Oh yeah, sure." It's just one of the men's rooms was a little out of order and they didn't want any, major flood before Monday morning when the plumbers came. But we didn't use those bathrooms anyway, so go ahead. So I take my folks up, and then at the end, 15, 20 minutes later, I'm coming down. And now the guy that I talked to is nowhere in sight. But there are two security guards in the lobby, like a tall one and a short one standing under the skylight. And the tall one yells at me, "Hey, you can't go there." So I come downstairs and I introduce myself and I say, I did ask the other security guard. So I said, "There is no other security guard out tonight." I said, "Like 20 minutes ago, he was standing right over there." Him and me were the only 2 security guards on tonight. Now, what I should have done was, but no, because my first thought was, I must be losing my wits. Could have sworn I wheeled around and asked this guy, but maybe I just thought it. Who knows? But I had never seen those 2 dudes before, and I never saw them since. So very strange. That is our lovely Driscoll. Let's see what else I can tell you about.
Do you want me to show you the picture?
Oh, yes. This is very interesting. There are 2 together. Hold on a second, guys. Take your time. Yes, these 2. This is taken from the bottom of the stairs in the Driscoll lobby leading up to the ballroom. And this was taken, the one on the right, was taken in like right around the time I started on tours, around February 2017. It was on my friend Mark's tour. And we don't know what it is, okay? Most people think it looks like the back of a woman's head with her hair in some kind of a bun. A few people think it looks like a bearded man. But back when we could take our guests up these stairs, people would turn themselves into pretzels, trying to put themselves in a position where you would see only this head. Initially, we thought it might have been, there are finials on these stairs that are rounded, but they're more pumpkin squishies. They're not more oval like this thing in the head. The one on the left was a picture that was taken about 6 months later. These people were on my tour. Mom takes a picture of kid. I had shown that picture. She sends me this one the next day.
Wow.
It's not the reflection of this kid's head in this mirror. She's much too low. So ever after that, I've been trying to get a picture with another head in it, but I've been unsuccessful.
So most of the time that picture's not there at all. I mean, that figure's not there at all.
No,
Yeah,
no,
it's weird.
it is weird. I mean, I just have no explanation for it.
Interesting.
It's like a ghost. I'm going with the back of a woman's head though.
I think so. That's what it looks like to me, especially in the bigger
Would
thing.
you be looking down the stairs?
Well, you think that person would be looking in the mirror if you're seeing the back of their head. Anyway, we haven't managed to score that one again in like 6 years.
Wow.
8 ghosts.
Did I include a picture of the tavern?
Yes.
All right, now this is very interesting. We used to go to the tavern on a regular basis, but they got really weird, so we stopped. But the story about the tavern is that it is haunted by a young kid named Emily. This is another place where Stephen took Sarah the medium, and we found out all kinds of interesting stuff, okay? And it turns out that Emily was the daughter of the main prostitute at the tavern. Because again, the person who did the tavern sets up a little, store on 12th and Lamar. And then at that time, they were just outside of the Austin city line. So all the legislators come down and drink, okay? So he had the store, he had the bar, and upstairs he had the brothel. And according to Sarah the medium, Emily was Amelia, and her mom was Maria Sanchez. They were these two Mexican women. And Maria was very popular. She was very popular as a lady of the evening. And then she caught the eye of a legislator, and he wanted to set her up in her own house. So she was, well, that's okay, but I have my daughter, so she'll have to come with us. He wasn't keen on this. So what apparently happened was either he or one of his minions grabbed this kid, sexually abused her, and strangled her, and stuffed her body upstairs in the attic in this cubby. So we had this bad ghost there. And we think it was the ghost of the murderer who was still terrifying people who worked there, and the ghosts of Maria and her daughter, Emily. And apparently he, from what I read and have been told, ghosts suck up energy from things like batteries, electrical outlets, stuff like that. So his spirit would live like on the second floor. There was a big closet with stereo equipment in it and a million wires and sources of electricity. So bad ghosts would hang out there, but he would come out occasionally and scare people. Everybody who has worked there will say you're in the kitchen and somebody goes by and rubs against you and you turn around and like, there's nobody in there. And then upstairs in this attic on the third floor is also where the office is, where the manager will do his or her work. And so they've told me they'll be sitting up here and they hear footsteps coming up the stairs, but nobody ever appears. Or when they would hire extra waiters or waitresses, like for a busy sports thing, it's a sports bar basically. There was one young woman who, she used to go upstairs from the and get some more linens, you know, from the office. So she does, and she comes out, and there's this black thing on the stairs. So she runs down, throws the lens at the manager and says, I'm out of here. There was another waitress who brought her daughter, as many of us moms do, bring our children to work. And mom's working up in the office, and the kid's like talking to somebody. So she says, who are you talking to? So the kid says, I'm talking to her. And she points in this corner. Mom doesn't see anything. So she's going to give me a job here. And then the kid draws a picture, like a stick figure, in period clothes. And it says, you have a job or something like that. It's clearly Emily. Somebody stole that picture at some point. It was quite illuminating. But anyway, Stephen and Sarah go to the tavern. Now, this is up in the attic. The lady here in the striped sweater is Sarah, the medium, and this picture was taken by her husband. Look to the right in that stairwell.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
My goodness.
That's in the stairwell.
see this bearded face?
Yeah. Wow.
We think we actually know who it is, but we're not allowed to say.
So there's a legislator?
Person who was a judge.
Oh my.
This is like Law and Order SUV. Now, Sarah, the medium, came and did some kind of ceremony to get this ghost out. I don't know if it worked. Because we would have people up there and, you know, they would feel things. A few years ago, ABC did a video of us for Halloween, and it's on our website, in fact. And we're standing up in this attic, you know, it was, what's her name, Keita, whatever, and the guy's in front of me. All of a sudden he goes, did you just touch my neck? But it will happen. People say they'll feel, you know, like this.
How would they want to get rid of their ghost? I mean, they're not doing anything negative, really.
Well, he was scaring people.
Oh, but isn't that like the hotel room where everybody wants to stay in that room? That could bring a lot of business.
I would have left him there, but nobody asked my
Yeah,
opinion.
Right.
It's like, why take down the mirrors and the, the clay pit? That's just the source of such.
Yeah.
I never heard that about clay pit.
Oh, yeah. It's been around a
I
while.
have heard rumors of the clay pit being haunted.
Me
too.
Many times I would take people down to the basement area and women, so I've never had it happen with a man, but a woman would, oh God, I have such a pain. You know, like probably right where poor April was shot. We had another, we had a tour guide. We were doing a photo shoot down at this place. This is very early on when we still thought the Scarlet Lady was like an 1890s dance hall girl or something. And so our guide had on this kind of 1890s costume and stuff. And they're taking pictures. And she said, all of a sudden those lights dimmed and she fainted. She just fainted. And when we don't, I don't think I'm particularly sensitive, all right? I'm old, the New York Times says so. So, when are you old? Is it 78? Oh, okay. But anyway, I don't get a lot of these things. But recently when I was doing some tours, I'd say, April, are you here? And the lights flicker. And some of the tour guys take these EMF monitors and all kinds of gizmos in there. I'm not sure how I feel about that, but it's very interesting. And all kinds of things, you know, things are vibrating. It's fascinating, I must say.
Now, Sarah, the medium, is she work here in Austin or where did her? We
don't know too much about her because she was a little bit loath to have her door broken down. I think she's come out a little bit. Yes, I don't know what, she's married, she has a couple of kids. I don't know how she met Stephen, maybe because they go to haunted things together or something, I don't know. But she's worked with him, you know, to like get to the bottom of some of these things. And it's interesting. You can go onto the podcast and they have a lot of attachments to it, like her notes, because she'll sit there and she'll just like doodle and stuff and things come out. You know? But the Toby thing was very interesting.
But you don't think you're particularly sensitive?
I don't think so. As I said, I'm 78 years old. My brain has a certain carapace on it by now. I do find when we have younger people on the tour, teenagers, basically, we don't really recommend it for people under 13. But you know your own kid. So, and we can soft pedal things if you have a private. We don't have to talk about sexual molestation and stuff. You know, we can talk about lady entertainers, not prostitutes. Although these days kids are pretty sophisticated. Getting their information from the internet, you know, God. So, but that's why. But lately I have seen these flickering lights in the basement, which I hadn't before now.
And you saw Toby too, right?
In my mind, not necessarily as a shade. It was, I don't usually have things, it just sprung out. It was a little boy, about 7 or 8, dark, kind of tousled hair, you know, a little messy, some kind of a white shirt, you know, with like a couple of buttons, those knickers that kids used to wear, socks kind of hanging down, scuff shoes, you know, typical 7 or 8-year-old. It was just so vivid.
Do you think that the ghosts are attached to the building and only some people can see them, or do you think that maybe those people that are sensitive can see, you know, spirits, and they're not necessarily attached to the building?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Clearly, the ones I've told you about, seem to be attached to the building. I once read that ghosts tend to haunt places that have some high emotional meaning for them. It could be love, it could be hate, murder, you know, whatever. So, you know, if you're riding in a hearse, for example, it was a real hearse and there have been lots of bodies back there. It's probably unlike people say, are there any ghosts in the hearse? And not that I'm aware of.
Right, because they wouldn't be attached.
Yeah, and they were already dead by the time they were in there. So, you know, not too much was going on.
Yeah.
But it was a concern. I have some tour guides that will do like a little water thing around there. Now you're protected. You know? Makes them feel better. You know? We just want everybody to have a good time.
Right.
But very interesting things do happen here. So that is basically our tour.
Have you ever been to the Minger Hotel in San Antonio?
No, I haven't.
And we go there all the time, my mom and I, for our birthdays.
And
you know, it's supposed to be haunted.
Yes.
No, we hang out for hours.
And nothing
and
happens.
We're waiting and waiting.
Yeah.
What's the name of the hotel?
The Minger.
Hotel.
M-I-N-G-R, I think it is.
Yeah, we never see anything.
Well, I'm eager to have more experiences because I think it's just absolutely fascinating. You know, after practicing law, it's like, just the facts.
Right.
It's like, let's see what comes in.
Yeah, it's interesting that you have such a different experience now professionally than you did in your former life.
Variety is the spice of life.
Yeah.
40 years of practicing law was enough.
What kind of law did you practice?
I did a lot of litigation.
Okay.
I went to law school in 1968, which was the year of the big Vietnam War.
Right.
So before that, there'd be 100 people in a class, and maybe 2 or 3 of them might be women.
Right.
This year, I went to NYU. There were 100 people in the class, and 22 of us were women.
Yeah. So when you say you were a litigator, did you handle criminal law, or was it?
No.
Okay.
I thought criminal law was it's very intellectually challenging.
Yes.
And I once was offered a job where they did some criminal law, high-priced criminal law, and some white collar. And a colleague of mine said to me, why would you want to do that? You have to spend your time hanging out with criminals. And I thought, point.
That's true.
These are not nice people.
Yeah.
I mean, after law school, well, I'll tell you a funny, it's not really funny, it's kind of tragic, actually. I had gone to Barnard, and my husband was at Fordham in law school. And so I applied to Columbia across the street, NYU, and Fordham. And NYU and Fordham say, yes, come. I don't hear anything from Columbia. So finally, it's like June, I got to make a decision. And I go across the street, and I go to the admissions office, and I say, I came to check the status of my application. So the dean of admissions says, it's over here. And he points to this pile of papers on the corner of his desk. So I said, what do you mean it's over here? He said, it's over here until we find out how many men are drafted. And then we will know how many women we have to admit. I would overlook this time. I was really furious.
Of course.
And I stood up, budding lawyer that I am, and I said, you listen to me. I said, I paid $25, which is what it was in those days. And you're supposed to tell me whether I'm accepted, rejected, or on the waiting list. There's no over here. So you can give me my money back, which they did, and you can forget it, because I wouldn't go here if you paid me.
Yeah.
And that was great, because NYU was such a happening place.
Yeah. Right.
Once they taught us to sue, we sued everybody.
Oh, of course.
We were known as the feminist law. I clerked for 2 years in federal court where I met interesting people. Roy Cohn. The judge I clerked for said he would not say hello to Roy Cohn in the corridor without a court reporter being present. He was major skin crawl, okay? Rudy Giuliani, who was an assistant US attorney. This is kind of funny because when he was running for the mayor of New York, I knew him because I clerked, before the judge. Judge didn't like him, give him an inch, take a yard, But he was campaigning near where I lived in the Upper East Side. So I went over and I said, hello. I said, Rudy, I'm going to vote for you. But I said, I have to tell you, this is the first time in my life I have ever voted for a Republican. So I said, don't F up. And then, of course, he did.
Were you surprised when he kind of had the fall that he had?
He's a nasty piece.
Is he? Mm-hmm. So you could tell just personally.
Well, one of the things he did was his second wife had 2 kids, and he announces he's going to divorce her at a press conference.
Oh.
He didn't even tell her. So then there's this big divorce case in New York County Supreme. And he says that he wanted the wife and the 2 kids to move out of the mayor's house, Gracie Mansion, and he wanted to bring his paramour, Judith Nathan, in.
Oh, yes, that is sleazy.
So, and the judge is, be serious.
I don't know if a question flashed up on the screen under chat or not, but I saw something.
I missed a brief comment about the lady who has lunch at a venue and waits to see a ghost, but it never happens. Was that at the dress?
Oh, that's me.
Okay.
Oh, was it?
No, maybe it wasn't.
Minger.
You said you're at the
It was at the Minger. Yeah. But
well, we can't guarantee it.
Yeah.
I'm surprised it happens as often as it does.
Yeah.
But people seem to have a good time.
Yeah.
The heat can be a problem.
Oh, yeah.
But,
Is October your busiest time?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
On weekends, we can sometimes run 6 tours a day.
We're all in the mood to be scared.
How long does the tour
It takes 3 hours.
Wow.
Well, you drive around, you go to 3 or 4 different places. We walk around.
Yeah.
See what we can see.
That's
It's a lot of fun.
awesome.
It really is.
Yeah. That sounds good.
But no, we cannot make them appear on demand.
They haven't been trained yet.
But you recommend taking pictures so that way you can always see if there's something.
Well, yes, because it seems that these things don't necessarily appear in the picture right when you take it. It kind of bubbles up later. I don't know how to explain it. Now, I suppose you could say these people go home and do all kinds of picture stuff on it, but
Oh, that's true.
It's been
I guess
happening
you
a
do.
long time.
Yeah,
So,
and it's not just one person.
no, it's random people who have no
Right.
connection with each other. So,
Yeah.
I had a friend who had moved into a house. I don't have this picture, unfortunately. But he said they would hear all this noise down in the living room at night. So he set up a camera and he showed me a picture of an orb with a face on it.
What? Oh my god.
Because most of the time orbs are just it's a flash thing, right? But this is very interesting. I said, well, please send me that picture, but he didn't. So I don't have it. But that's the first one I've ever seen with a face.
Yeah.
But there can be interesting. People do interesting things with flashlights. If you watch any of these ghost things, you put a flashlight down on the bed and not on, just kind of on the verge of being on, and then some spirit will come and turn it on or off. It does make you think.
It does, yes. That's fascinating.
At any rate, I told my kids that when I go on to the next experience, I'm coming back.
I bet they believe you.
Totally. You get the option.
I bet they believe you.
They should. My mother always used to say she was going to live to be 100, but she didn't, and she hasn't come back. Thank goodness.
But you're not even close to where she was, right? Because was she up in New York?
Yeah,
Maybe
well,
she
no,
came-
actually, I grew up in Rhode Island.
Oh, well, maybe she is there.
Oh.
You're too far away.
It's far enough. Cold up there. The last few years I lived in New York, it was, step off the curb, just sleet up to your mid shins and stuff. I thought, I'm gonna fall and break a hip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I move here and I trip in my apartment and I fall and break my leg.
But you're warmer.
At least you're warm.
It's true.
Everything here.
Well, when you get to be my age, you have a choice. Crumbling bones or bones that snap. It's no more tensile bones. So you have to be very careful.
Yes, you absolutely do.
It's, my old friends from the feminist law firm, we did all these test cases. All except one of us is still alive, and I'm the baby of that group. The oldest one's like 89. But every time we have a Zoom about once every 4 to 6 weeks or so, and every time somebody has something in a cast.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I was carrying in groceries and I tripped and broke my arm. So it's a dangerous place out there.
It is dangerous.
Yes.
So
Well, we really appreciate you coming.
Yeah,
it was a
thank you
lot of
so
fun.
much. Can you tell me your name again?
I brought gifts. My name is Diane Blank.
Oh, Diane Blank. Okay.
Yes, like fill in. Somebody once said to me, are you going to name your child fill in the? Funny. I brought you all some stickers.
Oh,
Haunted.
nice.
Awesome.
That's so nice.
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
They are
Oh.
deliberately murky to make people ask questions.
Cool. Very smart.
But do come on one of our tours.
Yeah, absolutely. It'd be
Especially
fun,
now that it's
especially, with
cooler.
a younger, group, like, some teenagers.
Yes.
That would be very
It would
fun.
be fun.
Yeah.
That would be fun. Thank you so much.
You're very
Diane.
welcome.
We really appreciate it. This was
Oh, that
fascinating.
is
Maybe
fun.
someday
So
I'll
much
join your
fun.
writers group. I keep threatening to write.
Anytime. Oh, yeah, but yeah,
Oh,
you would make
should.
good.
That would be.
It would
I
be
have
so
journals from the time I was
Fantastic.
24,
Mhm.
and they're all in this
Oh.
box. I
There
thought
you
I
go.
should go through and like sanitize anything. I don't want kids to see them.
Well, we're here every second Sunday,
I might do that.
except for next month.
But anyway, my granddaughter, who will be 8 in February, has now had an interest in this.
Oh.
So it's like, Goggy, Goggy, tell me a story about when you were a kid.
Aw, that,
I told her a few stories. She's like, you were naughty.
I think you should write that down. I think that'd be an awesome
I
idea.
do.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, I have a writing thing, and I'll be 4 o'clock in the morning, and I'll be
Yeah.
doing things. But
Yeah.
in my next life,
I wish my mom would sit down and write hers. She keeps saying she's going to, but she hasn't done it yet.
well,
And
this is
time
the thing,
passes.
you know.
Yeah.
I said to myself, don't throw out these journals.
Yes.
Mhm.
You know, your kids. I remember my younger son. I think he was applying to colleges. And he says, well, what college did you go to, Mom? I said, you don't know.
You probably said it 100 times and it was only one
Right.
and not the other.
Oh, yeah, for sure. For sure.
He does very well. He's on TV sometime.
Oh, really?
Well, he's a political scientist, I guess you would call him. He got his doctorate here at UT, and he works
great.
with Jim Henson, not the dead puppet guy, Jim Henson, at the Texas Politics Project.
Oh, wow.
Oh, awesome.
So, especially during these, you know, after the debates, they
Yes.
have them on KXAN and stuff.
What's his name?
Josh Blank. It's Joshua, but he never uses Josh.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want him to have 2 one-syllable names.
Yeah.
I lost. But they're great. Produced by 2 grandkids, so,
Wow, that's great. Yeah.
which is a thrill.
Aw.
And they're a lot of fun. So that's
Yeah.
why I'm here.
It's nice. It's nice to be near them, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Because so many of my friends, you know, well, people live in different places, you
Yeah,
know.
sure.
Yeah.
But this way, I go to their games.
Yeah.
Oh, I bet
I
they
see them 2 or
love
3 times a week.
that.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's really
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Wonderful.
And I have 2 wonderful daughters-in-law. So
That's great.
I was just
know,
thinking
that
last
makes a
night,
big difference.
how lucky am I?
Yes,
Yeah.
that can make a big
So,
difference.
yeah, no, they're
Yeah.
wonderful women. Anyway, I'm a happy camper.
Thank you. Well, please help yourself to snacks. We have some snacks in the back of the room. We have some over there if you'd like.
I'm seeing what I look like here, and I
Yeah.
think fewer snacks would be better than more snacks.
Absolutely.
Look, I'm from 2 long lines of little round women.
Yeah.
There's only so much you can do,
That
you
is
know?
true. I have little round women in my family.
And I shrunk, which makes it even worse.
That happens. That happens. Thank you so much, Diane.
Pleasure to meet you.
This was
That
great
was
nice to meet
fabulous.
you. Thank you so much. And would you like this back? Okay.
You can toss it. One less thing to carry, right?
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Very
Thank
nice
you
meeting
so
all
much.
of you.
Yeah.
Thanks for you. Thank you so much.
And maybe I'll come and
Right.
Yeah. Okay, take home, everyone.
Thank
right.
you. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and thank you. Thank you to everybody on Zoom. I'm gonna go ahead and turn this off. Thank you for coming. See you next time.